Alrighty, so without further ado, let's get started. My name is Sierra Hinksman. I'm the marketing manager here at Benu Networks. And today, this session is going to focus on how to increase revenue and build value with vBNG next generation services. And so we'll go into a little bit of detail, both about vBNG, what that looks like, how that should be structured, and then we'll talk about the services that you can layer on top and really discuss how you can incorporate that into your business from more of a strategic perspective to be able to make sure you get a good revenue and ROI off of that investment. So today we'll have two people speaking from our side. We have Mike McFarland, who, if you guys have joined our webinars before, I'm sure you're familiar with. He's our VP of Product. Mike, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Yeah, thanks, Saoirse. I'm head of product management here at Benu Networks. I've been in the telecom and networking industry for about, I don't know, a couple decades, and have been with Benu for about a year now, and very excited to talk to you today about what we're doing on our BNG platform.
Awesome. And then we also have Megan Sawyer with us. She's our VP of Sales. Megan, if you want to jump in, give people an idea of who you are, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Sierra. Good morning. Welcome, everyone, or afternoon if those of you are located in other areas of the globe. We're excited to have you here today. I just want to let you know that, and I know that it's taking a lot of time out of your busy Zoom schedule, so we're excited to have you here. A little bit about me: I am responsible for the sales team here in the U.S., and I've been in the telecom industry for most of my working life, long enough to remember when the internet was making those obnoxious noises when you tried to connect. I know probably no one's going to admit this on this call, but I bet some of you remember those days as well. I actually started my career working for Sprint in Kansas City, right about the time that cellular was just starting to evolve. So it was a voice service at the time. And I actually love this industry. I think it's amazing. There's not many jobs really where you get the opportunity to see incredible strides in technology year after year, and now really month after month. After I left Sprint, I worked for an access vendor based out of Huntsville, Alabama for over 20 years. And I got to see the network transition from modems to ADSL, VDSL, and 1 gig PON. And now it's actually evolving into 10 gig PON. And I think it's that sheer increase in bandwidth and connectivity over the years, although it's extremely valuable to our consumers, it does create a mountain of challenges for the typical telco that I think our solution can help you manage while also addressing your customers' needs for a secure, simple, and fast connectivity. Saoirse, did you want me to go to slide 3?
Awesome. Nope, I can do it.
Great. Let me talk through that if you don't mind.
Sure, go for it.
All right. So if you haven't heard of us before, I'm not surprised. We're kind of like the Intel inside of the incredibly powerful Apple computers. Our innovations don't typically show up with our brand, but we do help build our customers' brands bigger and better. Our solution actually powers the largest home as a hotspot with Comcast Xfinity. It's the largest home as a hotspot in the world. But it's our engineering staff that's really our secret to success, coming from some of the most successful technology brands, including Cisco, Adtran, CommScope, and Acme Packet. And over the last 10 years, we've transitioned our solutions from a monolithic hardware and software solution to completely virtualized. And we've disaggregated the software so that our control plane is now separate from the user plane. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. What I really want you to know about our team that we've assembled over the last 10 years is that we have a team that has focused their entire career on building and delivering solutions for telecom providers such as yourself. And we've done it through several customers of all sizes. So as you look at this map, you can see some of our largest customers that we work with, but what's really most important here is not necessarily the names, but the amount of experience we have running in telecom networks throughout the world. Every day, 7 petabytes of traffic traverses our platform globally, and it connects well over 24 million devices. And we have partnered our solutions with some of the largest hardware vendors in the world, including Dell, Arista, and Intel. And this gives you options on how to use our solutions in your network. Speaking of solutions, let's get to our agenda. What we'd like for you to take away from this conversation today is a clear idea of how our solutions can help you reduce your overall operational expenses in your network while providing a better experience for your customers. So first, I'm going to cover some of the concerns and challenges that we've heard some of our providers talk about as they're transitioning their networks to higher bandwidth services. And then I'm going to hand the mic over to Mike to talk through some of the specifics on our Benu platform and how its flexibility in architecture can support the smallest to largest subscriber base, allowing you to scale and add additional revenue streams to your broadband services. He's also going to talk through some specific customer use cases and how they've used our platform to deliver new services and increase their ARPU, or average revenue per user. And after that, we'll wrap it up in a bow with a special offer for those of you that might be interested. Okay, let's talk about how the telecom market has been evolving and how just over the last few months have changed it even further. And more importantly, how this affects the telecom network evolution and its business. I expect I really don't need to have a lot of points to prove what we've all been seeing and what you've been working hard to deliver. I mean, even before coronavirus, according to Cisco, bandwidth increases were expected to double between 2018 and 2023, driven mainly by the connected home and all the expected various application requirements, including, but not limited to, ultra high definition video, gaming, IoT, and now add all the teleworker requirements. Coronavirus has definitely sped this phenomenon up, and the pressure is on to deliver FTTH or 3.1 deployments faster than ever. A 97% increase in gigabit speeds year over year means you guys have been out there building networks faster and faster to meet your customers' needs. Saoirse, to the next slide. Even more interesting to me was as soon as you deliver that, your customers are actually devouring it. Look at the average 9 to 5 usage rate. It's up over 40% on a daily basis. And even after hours usage rates are up over 15. But you all know this, I'm sure. So why is this important? Well, this is why. Excuse me. Because as you all work to deliver higher bandwidth for your customers, it does not necessarily mean that you're actually gaining any more revenue per subscriber. In fact, today I spend only $80 per month for an 800 megabit service that 2 years ago I spent the same amount for a 100 megabit service. And now, more than ever, you have to watch out for competition, not only from traditional carriers, but from non-traditional service providers taking additional revenue opportunities away by selling over the top of your network solutions. This leads to more churn, and well, we know how all that ends. Go to the next slide, please. So there are ways to future-proof your network, ways that will lower your overall cost of doing business, thereby increasing your bottom line profit, and ways that will deliver new revenue streams and a better overall customer experience, which will increase your top line revenue. This is how the latest BNG technology in your network can help with both of these. Hey, Mike, can you give us some more detail on how we do this?
Absolutely. Thanks, Megan. And let's see, Saoirse, I'm going to see if I can control. I think I can now. So I wanted to talk about, what are some of the things you might want to look for if you're going to invest in a BNG or refresh, the BNG. And the first thing you want to look for is architecture, flexibility, and performance. And that means, having, and in this day and age, really what you want to have in this case is a virtualized system that leverages, Intel DPDK, and perhaps even has separate control and user planes, or it uses what's called the CUPS architecture. Really gives you the ability to scale control plane and data plane separately by using a software-based data plane on Intel's DPDK technology. You have a lot of flexibility in terms of how you would layer on services, and you'll see some of that. We discussed that. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. And now in the past, the performance hasn't been there, but now with some of these pipelines that they've developed in Intel, it really is a good performance level. And so you get a better price performance than most other platforms that are out there. Now, in some cases, you may have very high bandwidth services where you would want to leverage hardware acceleration. And so that's another area that you might want to investigate is, does the new BNG provider, do they have APIs that can program the actual user plane into a switch or SmartNIC, such that the packets are really, for the actual data sessions, are just traveling through that switch or SmartNIC, and taking advantage of the ASICs and microcode that is there that can forward at very high terabit levels if you need that kind of scaling. So that really is one axis of kind of evaluation you should be looking at. Another one, though, that's probably just as important is the value-added capabilities that you can get with the BNG platform. So most operators are having to deal with a shortage of IP addresses, public IP addresses. The cost of these addresses keeps going up. I think I recently saw the average cost last year was around $20 an address, and it's increasing. I mean, it's going up. So having a BNG solution that can provide carrier-grade NAT, network address translations, so you use private IP space that is then sharing your pool of public IPs, can give you a cost savings right up front. And who wouldn't want to save $20 on every home that they're deploying? That's like, almost, it's a significant cost if you look at it from home to home. Another service that is particularly synergistic with BNG is providing the Wi-Fi access gateway for hotspot services. And Megan alluded to this earlier about the fact that Comcast and others have rolled us out for their Wi-Fi access gateway to run their home as a hotspot. And this is where you can have an operator branded SSID that's broadcast from the home CPE. It's a second SSID, so it's not the home network that the people use in the home, but it's a second operator branded SSID that allows any one of, you can have different policies, but generally you would allow any one of your customers to connect to that as like a guest on the network. And not only does this create a great branding opportunity, but it also creates a really nice guest network service for the person who lives in that home. When people come over, they can automatically connect. They don't have to ask for the private, the password to log on to their home network, which is always, at least with my password, it's quite complicated, so a lot of people mistype it. And so this is a very good service to build your brand and also create a little bit more stickiness with those customers. Another type of function that is often found in networks that is synergistic with the BNG is deep packet inspection. So the idea here is the ability to identify and potentially also control applications and web traffic that are flowing through your network. And you can determine if you need to be prioritizing certain types of traffic to sort of optimize the overall experience for your customer base. And you can also keep an eye out for anything that maybe looks a little bit malicious. And then, of course, there's a lot of security functionality that we have, which I'm going to talk about shortly here. So the other thing that you want to look at is service function chaining. So with virtualized systems, it becomes really easy now to add and remove services sort of on demand. And so that really helps you increase your agility and reduce cost. Another thing that you can do is add network services for the home or SMB. And these are, security, static IP, guest networks, for like retail businesses, things like that. And those would be done at the network level. Even going further, you could have potentially services that provide device level capabilities. And that would be, there we go. Device level services. So you can do things like user services for teleworkers that are maybe working from home, which is a particularly hot topic these days. Internet of Things is really taking off. People who are buying remotely controlled thermostats or even door locks. These have to have probably a little bit more security than your typical device in the home, because if someone's hacking your door lock, you've obviously going to have an issue. Parental control, the ability to control different devices, different users' access to the internet, and having that granular control is also is important at the device level. And then the last thing is, sort of pulling it all together. So you want to have a solution, preferably that's going to come with portals already kind of prepackaged and built, so that you're not having to build your own user interfaces for your customers to manage all that. And so these are the kind of the two axes that I think are most important to look at is, architecture, flexibility, and performance. And then like what kind of value add can you get above just the baseline, BNG capabilities. And so when you look at a lot of players on the market, your historical proprietary hardware vendors really kind of fall into this section of the evaluation map. And they have had some success in adding some network services. They have roadmaps to moving to a CUPS-based architecture. At least they talk the talk. But the thing about Benu and why we're so excited about this market is because over the last a decade of experience in all these operator networks, we've built a broad set of capabilities, and we cover that full breadth of value-added capabilities and scaling. So this is kind of what it looks like, from a network architecture standpoint. You have your access network on the left with either DSL or PON networks, and connecting usually into a switch then to a BNG platform. And this is because we are running sort of everything in one node here. You have increased scalability, definitely lower cost. There's lower latency because we're only looking at the packets one time and then doing a bunch of things with it versus handing it off from platform to platform. There's inter-service awareness, so we know what's going on with a customer in terms of which services they've got enabled and how that could how those two services or multiple services need to work together. And it's certainly more flexible and agile. I mean, it's very easy to sort of add and remove things for individual customers. And then managing this, you can see in the upper right-hand corner here, we have the Benu Service Management Cloud, which is really a cloud-based management solution that provides management for all of these. So if you wanted to get into an architecture that was a little bit more distributed, because that previous one showed everything kind of running in one spot, we do support a CUPS-based architecture where you can have the data plane separated from your control plane. And this is more for larger networks probably in most cases. And so you can see here the data plane is distributed around the network and the control plane is more centralized. And there's a lot of effort amongst various projects and organizations to kind of create open interfaces among these and between them. And so we're actually deeply involved in those efforts to make sure these are very open interfaces like ONF and Telecom Infrastructure Project that's facilitated by Facebook. And so we're doing a lot of work there to make sure that, if you want to intermix things with different vendors, you potentially can do that. And you can, pick and choose, hardware separate from software. Another element of looking at getting into more detail, I guess, on our architecture is we can run on a variety of software only sort of solutions. So we can either run bare metal on a server, or we can also run on top of whatever hypervisor technology you want to use. So KVM, OpenStack, or VMware. I mentioned the hardware acceleration API to the SmartNIC or switch, and then what we're running is sort of the network functions, the WAG, which is the Wi-Fi access gateway, the BNG, the CGNet, DPI. Those are kind of sort of these fundamental sort of network functions. But what we're doing then on top of that layer is we've got these services pipelines, and you can package sort of the services you want for either home or business. And so for home, there's a variety of things you could bundle together, parental controls and scheduled access, teleworker, fingerprinting of IoT devices, as well as IoT security, guest Wi-Fi. All these different services can be either packaged all as one, or you could have different tiers. And then for businesses, there's even a broader set with even more advanced security capabilities like intrusion detection, DOS protection, which is denial of service attack prevention, malware and phishing protection. This is very much like a SASE solution. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, Secure Access Subscriber Edge, but it's similar to like a SASE solution that you see becoming more popular on the market, where you run these services essentially from the network. So why do a vBNG upgrade with Benu? First of all, customer acquisition and retention. We provide a portfolio of preloaded, prepackaged services, and there's, of course, if you have more services, you're going to have less churn. It's going to combat that issue that Megan showed earlier, whereas people move from triple play to single play, where they're just getting internet access. You want to add these services so it's, there's a little bit more stickiness to the service. You're not just a dumb pipe. The other aspect, of course, is the revenue and margins that you can generate with these additional services. Margins, of course, is also impacted by your CapEx and OpEx, and with a virtualized solution, I'm confident you will save some money, both up front on the capital expenditures, but also in terms of the operational expenditures to run your network. And then the last thing on the operations side, the nice thing about all these advanced services that I talked about is we provide elastic scaling on those. It's not limited to the capabilities of a CPE. And it's not limited to, it's not like, some CPE can support them or some are not, because we're running these services basically in the network. So you can leverage your install base. And by running it in the network, also, you can scale very efficiently along these different vectors, both control plane, user plane, as well as the services. They can all be scaled sort of independently. So these are some of the big advantages that I think a Benu BNG delivers to the market.
Hey, Mike, before we go into detail about the services, I just wanted to hop in. We have a question that I think would be useful to touch on before we jump in. So
Sure.
Are all the SD Edge platform, I'm assuming, services supported on the XMEG hardware? And then just for everybody who's tuned in who may not be familiar with the XMEG hardware.
So the XMEG hardware is a reference that's obviously we have someone who's familiar with our product line. The XMEG is basically our servers that we sell as an appliance with the software loaded sort of bare metal on those, and so that's a convenient option for people that don't want to have to deal with the hypervisors and virtualized environments. And yes, we do support all these services in the XMEG environment. So there's no difference in terms of the services available, whether it's virtualized or XMEG. So thanks for interjecting on that. So we talked about these services and they seem kind of obvious, but like service delivery is really typically very challenging. And so a lot of carriers don't roll out services very effectively or find it to be very cumbersome to do so. And so some of the things we hear that cause those challenges, and here's one quote: rolling out services is a pain because I have a variety of different CPE models. And so what does that imply? The challenge there is that some CPE can't support the service. Each vendor needs to provide an upgrade to get the service to work. How do they ensure consistent performance or user experience, across those different CPE? So those are some of the headaches, and that is why with the Benu approach, we decided, if you run this stuff in the network, you don't have to deal with these limitations on the CPE or the complexities. The second issue that we run into, of course, with a lot of carriers is I have limited budget and staff. And so years ago, we sort of came to people with this solution and said, hey, you need to build your own kind of user interfaces for people to kind of end user interfaces, customer interfaces to manage this stuff. But we found that, that's a fair amount of work for a carrier, and we can do it for them and offer it as a cloud service. And so instead of having to build your own management tools, operationalize it, or hire external developers to build like nice, slick consumer user interfaces, we have already built those for you. And they're modular in the sense that if you want to have a package where you've got parental controls and but a separate package that's for a teleworker, you can sort of pick and choose, and then the UI that we will provide for you will represent those things, so that when the end consumer goes on, they're only seeing the things they've actually subscribed to. And so what this looks like is, we've got the BNG as the base platform. And, like I mentioned earlier, it can do the CGNAT or the WAG or DPI. But the other thing then is you can layer on the network level services, or if you want to go even further, have the device level service. And of course, the device level service is the best because then okay, this is, you can set policy for a kid's phone or device separate from the parent's phone and device. They can have that control, that flexibility. You also have the ability to identify specific Internet of Things devices. So, this is my LG refrigerator that's internet connected, and I can see that it's on my network and allow it. And you can also set up very specific security policies for IoT, and some of those can be actually we build some of those in ourselves in terms of some of those capabilities such that they're automated. So that is some of the device level services. When you look at the actual service management cloud to manage all this stuff, we provide a wide variety of tools for different levels of management. So at the highest level, you have your admin manager, your operations manager, and then our BOSS solution. And these are for essentially the carrier to be managing the overall network and the overall BNG. And the BOSS is actually for user experience monitoring, where you can put an agent out at the customer site. It will simulate a subscriber and simulate traffic, so you can look at like how is their response times for DHCP or DNS or HTTP, and you can also do speed tests on sort of an automated basis, sort of periodically check that the speeds are okay. So those are the more sort of carrier management tools, particularly at the network side, network operations side of things. And then we have the business site manager for businesses, or an MDU site manager level, which is for managing residences that are in an apartment building, or it could be a retirement home or student housing. These site managers are for basically configuring the individual site and what it's been provisioned for. And then the next level is the home and business portals. So the home portal is for the end consumer to be configuring, the parental control policies or other kind of, home policies. And then the business portal is for setting up, the business security services. So maybe they want to do malware and phishing protection, or they might want to have a guest network. And so that portal is for them to manage that. And then the guest portal is something they can build and create if they've subscribed to this as a business. And with this, there's a bunch of other things that come with it. So there's like an ad promotion manager. You can have people log in either with a password or a Facebook login if you want to do some social media marketing later on. So there's a variety of capabilities with the guest portal for guest network services. So the nice thing about this is all prepackaged. You don't have to build anything. Enables fast, easy launch, minimal upfront investment. And the licensing is just pay as you grow. The more you use, the more services you're selling, and so that's really good for us. So that is how this works. And in terms of the use cases that we see kind of most commonly implemented, there's the home network kind of advanced services where they're doing a variety of these things, usually for the home. It's interesting, we see a lot of interest around guest Wi-Fi for Airbnb properties because people are always, they're renting out their apartment and they don't necessarily want to give access to their home network. They want to have a guest network where they can give a separate password, and that guest network doesn't allow users to get anywhere onto home devices. It just gets them out to the internet. So that's an interesting thing that we've seen a fair amount of interest in. And another package that we are now frequently seeing a lot of interest in, I say there's a rush on this one, is the teleworker. And because everyone is working from home, hopefully my connection's been clear today, but giving priority to the home workers so that their video conference calls and their regular voice calls are clear is really important, right? And you also now have people that are at home, but they're also communicating with all the business applications from the home. And so there's an increased level of security risk. And there's a lot of enterprise IT guys now looking at how do we secure that home network so that we're basically extending the business network out into the home. Other types of use cases that we see would be just for regular business networks at business sites, and a lot of that has to do with security or WAN backup or even VPNs between the sites. And then guest Wi-Fi, like I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of tools there for guest Wi-Fi. And later we'll be announcing a promotion around the home network services, so stay tuned for that. Megan will share that. This is just a sample of some of the user interfaces that we have, for these services, and it just gives you an idea of the fact that you can see different levels of traffic and analytics, and then there's a whole other set of configuration pages as well. Okay, so I wanted to talk about a couple actual deployments so you get a feel for how people are using this, our SD Edge platform, and running all these services on top of it in BNG. So this is a European service provider, actually a smaller one. Their network passes about 2.4 million homes. And I think this is a great use case of showing how a small operator can very quickly sort of launch some services without a whole lot of investment or a whole lot of people and resources. So they've been able to increase ARPU about $15 per month to all of their SMB customers, well, but not all of them, but a decent number of their SMB customers with a managed guest network service, particularly for the retail businesses where they want to have a professional looking guest network. And they were able to leverage the existing CPE They didn't have to swap that out. And they are now adding a new service, which is a WAN backup service using LTE modem. And it's transparent to the customer when the service fails over, and all the services that they have and the sessions and stuff are maintained as well. And by using us, they've really been able to reduce the overall cost of these. Normally when they roll out new services, it's much more complex. It also provides them a faster time to market because of all the tools we provide. Another example, and this is a larger provider who has 2.8 million customers in the U.S., and they are using us for primarily what they call managed business services. And so what this does is it kind of almost virtualizes their CPE, their business CPE, such that we're providing all of the networking capabilities, the DHCP server and the firewall and device level policies, all from the network side, from the operator's network, versus trying to run it all on the CPE equipment. And we're also providing guest network services here, so it's a nice solution. And they've also, this is actually a service that they're running in parallel with their operator branded hotspot services, which they've also implemented using our technology. And again, for all these, they've leveraged their existing CPE, which provides for a lower cost and faster time to market rollout. And then the last example here is actually with a very large operator, in this case in Latin America. And they have launched 5 products basically using our SD Edge platform. So they're getting the great thing about this, what makes me excited, is they are getting a lot out of basically a single investment in our platform. They've rolled out a home office solution, a distributed enterprise solution, which is similar to home office but more sold to the businesses. They have a home hotspot service, advanced security capability, and a parental control service. So, and again, using the existing CPE has enabled them to rapidly get to market. And this is providing a lot of new revenue streams for them where they didn't have before. Helps them get into new areas, and because we've provided all these things kind of prepackaged, it really has been relatively simple for them to implement compared to other things they've done in the past. So, all right, so I think that gets us to kind of a wrap up. I'm going to hand this over to Megan to kind of summarize things for us.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Hey, before we go to a wrap up, I wonder, Saoirse, if we could answer a few questions.
Sure. Sorry, I didn't mean to click forward for whatever reason that didn't do that. So let me go ahead and open this Q&A feature very quickly, and then we can run through some of your questions. I appreciate you guys being patient. I wanted to figure out a good time to jump in. So one of the questions that we have is around AAA. So does the vBNG act and function as a AAA without any extra hardware dependency?
I'll take this one unless you want to make it. So we do not technically have a AAA in this product. We do interoperate with and work with a lot of AAAs. A lot of our deployments do have a AAA involved, and we support a wide variety of what are called BSAs for configuring services for those users. The BNG architecture normally does use AAA, and it's a separate AAA because that's a subscriber management platform. But if you are using some of our more advanced services and capabilities, there are ways to potentially avoid even having to use AAA, in which case AAA no longer is necessary. And the subscriber management is really done in those administrative portals that we talked about, where you set up the business sites and the end customer sites, and then all the provisioning is more API driven versus based on than using Radius, which is, of course, Radius is a very old protocol. So there's some advantages and flexibility that you get with using our more modern sort of architecture. But we do support external AAAs.
Awesome, thanks, Mike. And then, is your BNG mostly for residential or for business customers?
Well, BNG is historically for residential customers. You do have small business customers that will connect over broadband, like a DSL or PON connection. But as you get to larger enterprise, usually they're getting some sort of dedicated fiber connector or something like that, which likely would not go through the BNG.
Gotcha.
But it's mostly for consumer and residential services. And that's why you saw a lot of the services some of them were kind of business oriented, but they were like, teleworkers. So that's really, it's sort of a combination, right? It's a business service, but in the home. Or a lot of those services were also sort of geared towards, SMB customers, which a lot of times operators don't even realize they have, so many SMB customers. And it doesn't have to be a retail shop, like a coffee shop. It could be someone that has like they run a business out of their home and they've got a couple employees and, or even if it's just them, but it's a business. And so they have some business requirements, like they got to have, really high availability of their broadband connection, make sure that they're going to be able to get phone calls for potential customers. And they may have higher security requirements as well.
Sure. Okay, so next up is around the SD Edge platform versions. So the question reads, I understand the solution has two versions, a software version that must be installed on a server and an appliance version that is a hardware with software installed on it. Is this correct?
That's right. There's a software version that would run on your whatever compute you want that's using some sort of hypervisor like KVM, VMware, or OpenStack, which are the most commonly used. Or we do have the appliance that runs on our XMeg servers and has the software prepackaged installed.
Great. And then the next one reads, does the network management tool work with your BNG or vBNG? So I assume that we're speaking about BOSS, which we touched on in the portal slide very quickly.
Yeah, so BOSS is kind of independent of which, even if you were just using our Wi-Fi access gateway, or just, the BOSS solution is a performance monitoring solution to sort of see what the user experience is, and is somewhat independent of that. So you put agents out into various customer sites normally, and that then simulates the end user traffic, and the data, it's basically time stamping all of the communications for all the various, because when you make a connection to the internet, it's not just, it's multiple steps, right? First, you have to get an IP address if you're not on the network yet. So there's DHCP process, then there's a DNS request, and then, you go to the HTTP. And so all these steps, right, are time stamped and measured so that you can see, okay, wait a second, there's something going on with DNS on our network. How is it being routed? Or, you can look, so it automatically gives you some diagnostic information. And this is particularly useful, I would say, for service providers that are kind of signing up for an SLA with maybe a large MDU, like a large apartment building, or a big student housing complex, or it could be a business where they have a certain SLA, and so they can do this sort of active monitoring to, and the BOSS analytics and controller is cloud-based, so you don't have to necessarily install anything. I mean, we can sell it also as software if you want it, but it can also be cloud-based, so you don't have to mess around with installing it somewhere in your network.
Awesome. And then, is it possible to connect to voice-only connection DSL clients?
Voice-only connection. So we certainly support voice. So So if someone's only using voice over a DSL connection, that would be, if it's IP, it's fine. Any IP packets would be supported, if I understood the question correctly.
Great. And then this question is around business opportunities. So I'm assuming that the question is asking more towards our services. So the business opportunities are for service providers, correct? And then if distributors or integrators of your solutions would sell the solution to service providers.
Yeah.
So if you're a distributor or integrator and you want to drive some revenue, you would want to sell this solution to service providers who then are going to take this and use it as part of their network. And then, part of it is, the BNG would be to help them operationalize their broadband services for internet services to end customers, but also they would sell to the consumers and businesses the additional services like the security services, the guest network services, the teleworker services. But yeah, the target for our solutions here is to the carriers.
If I could just add on to that, Mike. So today we talked about our BNG and then also the additional services that you can add on. The BNG is typically a carrier sale. Carriers are using the vBNG to authenticate their subscribers. We do have the ability to separate the two. So we could put, the services solutions into a cloud that's owned by maybe an end user or an integrator for them to deliver those services to the end customer as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you don't have to run this on top of the BNG. We can run the services separately, and that's true. That could be sold either directly to an enterprise or to an MSP who wants to provide the services to enterprise or business customers.
Great. And if there's any further questions on that around distributing and integrators, feel free to reach out. My email and our general marketing email are on the next few slides. So feel free, or just respond to your invite. That will go right to me. So feel free to respond to that with any additional questions if you want to go a little bit further or discuss a little bit deeper some specifics. So the next question is, the portals that we touched on today, are you able to customize these? I'm assuming this means more towards like look and feel to make it sort of more in line with your branding.
Yeah, so we do certainly allow for branding changes so that you can have your brand on those user interfaces. And we can customize the portals if there's a need for it. So that's certainly something we can entertain.
And then for public Wi-Fi deployments using different access point brands, does the services provide a unified NMS for any public Wi-Fi AP?
Well, not a full-blown NMS. I mean, first of all, nothing is universal, right? It isn't unified, but for all different brands of Wi-Fi access points. So normally the carriers will use a variety of different CPE vendors or Wi-Fi access points. And in that case, they usually have an NMS for those that comes with those Wi-Fi APs. And they'll use that for kind of the more detailed management of it. We do have an access control server capability or ACS capability in our platform that allows for configuring some of the parameters on the Wi-Fi APs and managing some of them, but some of the parameters, but not, we don't build for like the complete set because we'd be just duplicating what the actual vendor did with their NMS. So.
Great. And then the next two questions are kind of similar, so I'm going to try and blend them together. So this is really around security services. So the first question is around device fingerprinting and dealing with device onboarding. So what generally, like, what do we offer? And then the second question is more just generally around security. So maybe we can just touch on some of the services that we have around security.
Okay. Yeah, so the device fingerprinting, the way that works is we basically partner with some large databases, and we look at some of the information in the package to determine what type of device is connecting onto the network. And sometimes it's just, it's, I guess this is kind of boring, but it could be like, it's someone's iPhone, and you can see what type of iPhone it is, and these kind of details. But I think what's even, more sort of interesting, particularly in the home environment, is like being able to detect, like, this is the door lock versus the refrigerator versus the thermostat. And potentially then also layering on top of that, like, okay, well, the door lock really should be only communicating to this one URL or this one IP address and never communicating to anything else. It should never be sending a high volume of traffic. Things like that, where policies can be established to prevent any kind of hacking. In terms of security in general, we do support parental controls, as well as malware and phishing protection. We can also layer on more advanced or business class security, like intrusion detection or intrusion prevention, antivirus, sandboxing, basically a full suite of enterprise grade security, all delivered from the network, such that you don't have to go put, big expensive, next generation firewall on the premise. So very cost effective. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Mike. And then if anybody else has any additional questions after we close the session, don't fret. Feel free to just reply to your invite and your registration, and those emails will go right to me, and we can have a further chat about any of the questions that you have. So Megan, I'll actually hand it back over to you to wrap us up.
Maybe it would be helpful if I'm muted, sorry. Thanks, Saoirse. Just to recap our discussion here today, as your bandwidth is increasing, and hopefully your subscriber base as well, by the way, you can use our solution to authenticate your subscriber base with lightning speed and make sure that they have gotten the services that they've ordered. And we do this by virtualizing our software so that it sits on bare metal servers that are actually optimized for both power and space efficiency. And we also do this by automating the subscriber authentication process, which will lower the number of resources that you need to deploy services. And we'll do all this while providing many new services that you can deliver to your customers, which will increase your monthly revenue as well as your customer loyalty. So before we leave you, we do have one last bow that we want to put on this presentation. We are offering 250 licenses free for our home network services. It's for the period of 1 year, and the value is $2,500. If you're interested, you can email Saoirse at saoirse.hinksman@benunets.com. And then also, Saoirse, if you wouldn't mind backing up to the slide that shows the home network services so people can get a sense of what that was. Sorry, we should have probably put that on here.
There we go. So it's
the one with the stars there. Yeah, this includes all of the things that you would get in the home network service here, including the device fingerprinting, which we just answered a question on, being able to create the bandwidth by device, parental controls, and then some security, including the malware, phishing, and enhanced firewall. So if you're interested in that, just email Saoirse at that shinksman@benunets.com solution. And now, Saoirse, I am just going to send this over to you to wrap it up.
Sure thing. Thanks, Megan. And also, if that's too complicated to remember, you can just email marketing@Benu Networks, and that will also go to me. So no worries there. So thank you guys for joining. We really appreciate it. Hopefully this was valuable to you. If you have about 30 more seconds, I'm actually going to launch a poll that's for feedback for us, which is really, really beneficial. Obviously, and we want to make sure that we're adding value to the time that you take to join us for this nice discussion. So again, thank you guys for joining. Any additional questions, please reach out to us. I will email this recording over to everybody that joined, just in case you need to revisit something or you wanted to re-listen to one of the questions to see if it'll be a good fit for you. So yeah, I'll give you guys a couple minutes to fill out this poll. Otherwise, thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day and hopefully a great rest of the week as well.